Welcome out everybody to ExCog Radio, episode number 4. We'll be talking today about the latest live letter news and also about raiding in general, going back, and then maybe some predictions going forward to Shadowbringers. First off though, we're gonna kick it over to Final Fantasy so we can actually see what's up. And where are we today, Variel?
We're at my house. My personal house in the mist, this lovely little medium plot on the beach.
Cool. And the person talking there is, of course, Variel Ambergold, the most cursed man on the Citadel, if I remember correctly.
Oh god, that's going to follow me everywhere, isn't it? Apologies.
I'm gonna make sure that becomes a meme, yes.
Apologies for missing the last 2 podcast episodes, but life comes at you fast, boys.
It does. And joining us today for the first and hopefully not last time, we have Megumin Meguu.
Hello there. Yes, Megumin Meguu.
And you are a Final Fantasy streamer and personality, I would say?
Yeah, exactly. My Twitch channel is LII, and yeah, I'm pretty much the guy that thinks he's a good player, but actually just parses purple on FF-locks, because he's too lazy.
Purple is well in my acceptable ranges for me, at least.
Purple still puts you better than the vast majority of the player base.
Well, that's true.
It does. It is like in the top tier, and as we discussed a couple of people yesterday, the last 10, like 90 to 99, those are just padded logs anyway, so who cares, like leaderboard manipulation and all that.
That's totally true.
Also, I think the other thing that some people tend to forget is that every single fight of any real consequence in this game has an enrage, so even if you pass grey, you're still better than everyone that failed to beat the DPS checks.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, yeah, true.
So, Variel, would you want to show us around the house real quick? See
Okay.
what is up, and then we can get the news section rolling.
So, over here is my little garden. And then...
It's a really fucking nice garden. Like, we usually skip the outside, because I usually say, you can only do so much with the outside, but you really fucking did something.
Thank you. Over here is the sitting area with the Sephiroth tree. If you stand next to it, you can actually hear birdsong. And if you listen really closely, you can hear the sounds of flexing biceps and industrial metal.
Yeah, I can hear the birds, I think.
Yeah. I've got, here's a nice view out over the beach.
Wow, this is a pretty fucking nice location, I do say.
Oh, yeah. This plot used to belong to, like, a really rich, high-level Omnicraft, a friend of mine, but she finally managed to buy herself a mansion and moved there. So, as soon as she did it, she told me that this place was free. I literally, like, got a message from her on Discord at 3 in the morning saying, hey, I'm moving by the plot, so I have to, like, drag myself out of bed. So, like, I'm so tired I haven't actually woken up yet, and buy this plot. Even had to borrow 3 million gil off her just to get it, but I got it, and I'm really glad that I got it.
And then you had to start from 0 basically and work your way all the way up until you could furniture and everything.
Yes, pretty much. Everything, absolutely everything in this house came from me. I haven't had any help doing anything with it.
Same for me when I bought my small plot all those years ago. I basically had 300k over when I bought the plot and the permit.
Mm-hmm.
And my crafters were like a level 20 at that time, so I had a real long period there with no money and a lot of crafting, but eventually my house looks kick-ass. We're gonna take a look at that maybe next week,
Speaking of which, I'm trying to figure out what this gear set on my retainer here is, and I've managed to work out what everything is except the sword. I can't remember what the sword is.
I recognize that. Is that not like the 2-7? No, like the artifact gear for Paladin.
Maybe it is.
Yeah,
it
from
probably
Stormblood.
Is.
It's a nice sword. I think I had that one.
Because this wasn't an intentional outfit for my retainer. I just passed my hand-me-downs to my retainer. But then I realized, hey, this gear set actually doesn't look terrible.
Yeah.
And so if you follow me indoors.
Well, let's go inside.
still loading. The servers are
Great
the servers
music.
are shit, but more specifically, I think the servers are quite tired right now.
I think they've gotten their fair share the last couple of days, yeah.
I need to turn the music back on. I had to turn it off while I was watching the live letter. So this is the ground floor. Over here is my crafting area, where I have pretty much everything I need, and then some stuff I don't need. So I got all the NPCs, and I got access to the company chest and a summoning bell here.
It's convenient just having everything in one corner like this.
Over here is like a little lounge seating area where you can play Triple Triad.
Ooh. You a big Triple Triad fan, by the way?
Actually, I am.
Me too. We need to play sometime.
I think
I
don't like playing against other people though, because the balancing for Triple Triad in this game is terrible. It's way too easy for matches to grind to like a stalemate against another human being.
That's very true. You need to like play ballsy and play outside of what people usually do and trap them, basically. That's my philosophy, at least when I'm playing tournaments.
Yeah, here we go. I managed to use a housing glitch to get a bookcase on the staircase.
Yeah, because you can't put stuff there regularly. Yeah.
Sort of. Over here is my little indoor gardening area. This is the office.
Nice. I really like when people get creative with like bookshelves. That's always gives a nice little, feeling of sophistication.
Bookshelves are a pretty handy, universally handy housing material. In here is the bedroom.
Oui.
Damn. You spent a lot of fucking effort on this. Holy shit.
Absolutely, I have. It's my pride and joy, which is why I like showing it off to anyone who will pay attention.
I get that.
Up here, I got a little gubby on the fish tank.
Oh yeah. That's also a glitch, I presume.
No, that's
No?
actually a thing that works. You can place items on the top of fish tanks. Some items can be a little bit funky sometimes, but you can place tabletop items on top of fish tanks. And then in through here.
I know you have the fish face aura, but you don't need to be in the fish tank.
In here is the bathroom. Used a different housing glitch to clip the bath into the wall. Yeah. And I think it actually looks really good.
It does. It blends in really well.
Well, I mean, if I didn't think it looked good, I wouldn't have it.
Of course. And 4 lamps like that. Yeah, why not?
I literally refurnished the entire basement floor because I just realized that I didn't like it.
I think I've redone my basement completely 3 times now. But I also have a small as a personal, which makes it even harder to get creative with.
Little housing trick that you can see if you're watching my stream. You can layer flower vases over the top of each other without any weird clipping or Z fighting. Oh. So you can do that to make more complex looking bouquets. Because if you come over here and look at the big, the dome and dogwood here, you can see at the base of the tree there's the weird texture issue, which quite often happens when you put furniture over itself. It doesn't happen with the flower vase for some reason.
That's actually pretty cool. I'm gonna see if I can implement some of that. I can still put in 30 furnitures in my house. Yeah. Items.
Follow me.
But 200 in as small feels so cluttered to me. I don't know.
Follow me down here. Oh, yeah, I got a little reading corner in here. It's the
it's pretty cool.
It's the don't interrupt my book or I'll stab you chair.
Just pull out the Thornberry knife from the last event, just shank ya.
Yeah. Follow me down here. I went for a really light, airy style in here. That's why there's a lot of bright stuff here with furniture dyed white.
Works really well, to be honest.
Yeah. Managed to use a housing trick to get an incense burner on the top of the piano.
Oh. I don't understand why we need to glitch that stuff, because you should be able to put whatever you want on a piano. Is this basically a tabletop?
Yeah, I can get that. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. I've got the Voidoroga statue here. One of the little touches I really like about this is there's the light behind the statue seems to like reflect off the steam coming out of the water.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you want to know what this water is, by the way, that the statue's in? It's the dome.
What's
it's
that?
the dome and bathtub.
It works really well. Like, if you could make it like squirt water somehow too, you could have a really nice little fountain situation going on.
I could try and clip shower heads into the verdant partitions, maybe, but that could look a little bit weird.
I mean, yeah.
I can't do anything to make the statue squirt water though. In here is the kitchen. It's a little bit cramped, but that's because the chef is much smaller than we are. See, the best part about the Namazu chef is that if he like catches himself on the oven while he's cooking and burns himself, it smells delicious.
Oh God.
There's like little step stools for him to be able to reach the tops of all of the cooking appliances.
You really thought about this.
Oh yeah. And then in through here, the last area in the house, and where we're actually going to be recording, is the kitchen area / like sushi bar.
Really nice.
See, the
nice.
really nice thing about the Stormblood food is it's the only food furniture that looks edible. The models on the ARR food is so bad. Like, would you like a nice bite of nondescript yellow sphere?
Yes.
But it still looks... It's literally just a 2D image.
Yeah. The ramen looks a bit weird there, but the stew over there looks really good.
Yeah.
Like, it's not super high poly, but it still looks good.
Best one here is probably the udon bowl.
Like, at the end of the day, it's not like we're not meant to look too closely at anything in this game.
That one is definitely good.
Alright. I'm gonna put the iCam on there then.
Yeah, that's the tour of the house. Oh yeah.
Pretty nice house. If I remember correctly, let me check.
You can also jump on top of the roof if you take the path that leads up behind the house.
That's always nice. Roof access is really nice for screenshots and other things.
I remember one of my friends a while ago complaining that they were random strangers would hold meetings on the roof of their FC house. Like, these people, no one was in the FC knew any of these people. They just all decided to meet on the roof of someone else's FC house.
Why not, I guess? Why not make it creepier just because? Okay, so we are at plot 32, the second ward of the mists over on
plot 34,
Lich, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anyone wants to come join us and make the iCam a bit more spicy, you can do that. And we're gonna probably start open up the news section then. Because there was a live letter.
Yes,
another live letter. After the live letter and the announcements and the FanFest, there was another live letter. With even more Shadowbringer announcements. And
the sound guy from last time was nowhere to be seen.
He is not fired, guys. He's not.
No, that's the funniest thing. They said, nah, no one's gonna get fired over this, it's all good. The day after, there's a listing for an audio guy on screen's webpage.
No, it was not the day after, it was actually like... It was there the entire time, pretty much.
Okay. I think that one was just a joke being shared around.
No, it was...
Okay, yeah.
It's there, but it was there the entire time, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I can get that. People like seeing it and making a joke out of it. And
anyway, the first piece of news from the live letter, and the most important piece of news: doubled glamour doubled glamour dresser storage and an extra 5 glamour plates.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
I would like to see 20 glamour plates, but
yes.
I mean, I'm happy with whatever we get, honestly.
I'd like to see an unlimited number of glamour plates stored client side, but I'm okay with the way the system works now.
And one change to the gamma plates. Can we please use them outside city-states?
Yeah, I don't know why that is. I do know that's not a deliberate choice. It's because of a coding limitation. Everything is, but I don't know why.
I mean, we can always just say 1.0 spaghetti code, and that would be the catch-me-all for that, but,
spaghetti-o.
So, more on that slide you were just mentioning. We also got the furnishing preview, which they spent like a good solid 30 minutes showing off, which could have been a 2-second segment, or a 2-minute segment in my opinion. It's nice that we can preview furniture and we can dial and see how they look.
I think it's absolutely amazing. Because
my biggest question,
quite a few times, I've made a piece of furniture which would have sold for a crap load of money on the market board, put it down in my house, realized I don't really want this because this doesn't actually work in my house now that it's down and I'm looking at it, and I can't do anything with it now. I just got to stick it in storage.
It's what it is. But my biggest question is, they didn't place anything from the preview. So can we just preview and then we have to actually go to the separate menu and place and drag it around?
No, you can't place it. It's just a preview. You can turn it, you can move it around, but you can't place it.
Yeah, I don't think you could place from the preview.
That's a bit iffy in my opinion, honestly.
It's pretty much just there to give you a general idea on how the item looks, because I also had several times the problem that I bought an item, then I put it into my house because I thought it would look good, but then I noticed, it totally doesn't look good, and then I wasted 100k.
Yeah. And you can't, when you actually placed it, you can't resell it. You can't do that with this system. Which, I don't mind it. I would just like it to be a bit more fleshed out.
Oh, yeah,
but
definitely.
I think it's a good change. It's a good change. Like, everything there's a lot of quality of life updates in this news section, and that's always nice, because that means they're actually working on the spaghetti code and fixing stuff in the back end more and more.
There's also all of the link shells becoming cross-world, but that had already been announced a while ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I hope that also, with that change, there will hopefully be more implementations of crossword tells and that being better. I don't know if you noticed, but when you're a PF leader and you get 2 tells from 2 different people, you can already reply to one of them.
Yeah, yes. It's just the thing in general. Ugh.
It's like, why?
Also, actually, no, the best part of the housing preview is that, like, being able to preview furniture we could basically already do that. Just, like, start placing the furniture, but don't actually place it, and you could see it there. The best part, though, is that we can now preview what furniture looks like when it's died, which you just couldn't do before. That's something that I do really like.
The problem is, though, you still had to buy the furniture to look at it. For example, I just knew a few furniture that looks good, but the actually expensive furniture that I've seen that they actually look good in the life letter, I never touched them because they are just too expensive to just buy them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand that, but apologies. The only solution to that would be to allow every single piece of furniture to be viewed from the preview item at once. And there's hundreds of pieces of furniture in this game, including many pieces of like limited event furniture, mog station furniture, things like that, which would all have to be shown. So I could imagine that if they didn't limit the housing preview in some way, your game would just stop for half a minute every time you opened up the housing preview because of the sheer number of pieces of furniture it would have to bring up.
Well, the only limitation we get on that system is seasonal items that are excluded from this preview, but everything that you get in the game all the time is in this preview.
Yeah.
No.
Like some of the old stuff I can understand because it's so like selective and special, so to say.
It's
sad, but
the preview. The preview of furniture that was shown on the live letter though consisted of furniture that would have been in Yoshi's inventory or in his storage, which I'm okay with.
Are you sure though?
Mm.
Because I'm pretty sure it was all of the items that we actually have inside of the game.
It might be, but I'm pretty sure that there's more outdoor furniture than was shown in the live letter. Maybe I'm wrong.
You also need to think that the outdoor furniture that we've seen was only the new items, and you have several categories under it, and outdoors he didn't show us the categories, he just showed us the new items that are coming with 5.0.
Yeah. Everything else on the PowerPoints, the same PowerPoint slide, was just the usual stuff that we're seeing. New tomestones being added. Phantasmagoria is going to come out with the release of Eden's first Savage tier. The new crafting scripts are going to be white. That's basically just what we've seen since day one. This is the first time we've got new crafters scripts. This is not the first time we've got new crafter scripts.
No.
This is the first time that a set of crafter scripts has been rendered obsolete and removed from the game.
Yeah.
The blue ones.
But it's just being handled the same way as tomestones, basically, which surprises no one.
Can you still get blue scripts nowadays?
No.
No.
You can't get but for some baffling reason, they're removing red scripts. They're removing red scripts, yellow scripts are going to become red scripts, but blue scripts are being left in the game, despite the fact that there's been no way to earn blue scripts since Heavensward.
They're probably gonna remove it as well, though, from the UI. It's just they didn't mention it because no one has blue scripts anymore.
If they do, then they can deal with that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Blue crafting
I think
UI,
I used my last blue scripts not that long ago, but there was really no point in using them until I needed one of the old crafting or gathering books or whatever it was I didn't have unlocked yet.
Actually, the new crafting UI, I love it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. You now get to see all of your buffs in a much more easy read format than your regular buff bar. The condition is more obvious, so no more auto-piloting over excellent procs. The thought of that hurts. Or at least less likely to do that. And also, you can see how much progress and quality you'd get from a 100% efficiency action with no buffs, which is super useful. I've found myself regularly almost getting caught out and having to dig right back through my crafting log to find out how much a normal touch would do.
Yeah. And there are some other crafter adjustments too, new actions, and Bargots and Steady Hands would be to all classes now instead of being cross-classed.
New actions, obviously, surprising literally no one. I'd be more surprised if there weren't any new actions. Whole new expansion, and the crafters get nothing. Steady Hand 2 and Baragot's Blessing are going to be added to all classes instead of being cross-class actions, which I'm glad about. Loads of people in the Twitch chat were being angry about it, but when is Twitch chat ever reasonable about anything?
Never.
And people going, cross-class dead. Anyone who says that clearly doesn't have a high-level crafter, because there are loads of other cross-class actions that you absolutely need to do high-level crafting. It's just that Steady Hand 2 and Baragot's Blessing were mandatory for normal crafting. So it's
for everything, yes.
Yeah. The recipe aspects have also been removed, because that was a system that nobody enjoyed, that added nothing and just annoyed people.
Yeah,
I didn't even know what it was.
How many recipes even had aspects to them?
Let me see.
Less than 30?
Let me see.
I asked the hardcore crafter if he ever used those, and he literally just said, yeah, he used it in 2 recipes, but he doesn't even know which recipes.
Yeah, here we go. The primal weapons. The primal weapons on the primal furniture use it, and that is it. And it's not even
the things you don't even need, and you don't need them in high quality because they're always just glamour. No one gets them for
and
item.
it's not even like all of the primal weapons. Like the warring triad don't have the warring triad don't have aspects. The auspice trio don't have aspects. I believe Seiryu. Well, no, we don't have crafted weapons for the Stormblood trials yet, but we do have crafted furniture from them, and they don't require aspects either. That's gone. There is one change for crafters which I don't like, though, or at least I don't think I like, which is currently, there is a cap to the amount of high quality that you can get from high quality ingredients, which is 50% if you have all high quality ingredients. But they are going to be raising that cap for Shadowbringer recipes up to 75%. I don't know if they're going to be doing that for all recipes or just for some. But I think that I don't like that personally.
They said it's just for some recipes, but we don't
know
know a general idea on what they mean with some, how many. We just know that a few or like a lot of those recipes just have 50%.
What I think it is, when they use the wording like that, Greenies is very specific, whilst Toes at the same time being very unspecific.
Yeah.
So it's either gonna affect leveling stuff or endgame stuff, and I'm thinking it's probably gonna be leveling stuff because the endgame crafting they probably still want to have some form of skill wall or gear check on, so to say, because actually to be able to do that stuff.
Well, the nice thing about the Square Enix devs is that unlike a lot of other MMO devs, they actually care about crafting.
You can tell, like the crafting system in this game. Like I had one dude just pick it up a couple of days ago, and it's like, this is legit fun. Yeah, it is. It's a mini game unto itself, and a good one.
The actual crafting system itself is not the most complex MMO crafting system out there, but it's the experience as a whole that makes the crafting system in this game so good. It's the working on your rotations and gathering as well, and all that stuff.
Yeah. And the gathering, as you mentioned there, gatherers are also getting new traits and actions, but they're also getting the quality of life change. That like they're actually gonna be alerts in game for time nodes and stuff like that now. We don't need to use an external site anymore.
Once you harvest something, it'll give you the times that it appears in the gathering log. Finally!
Like PlayStation players around the world fucking rejoice, right?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Because a lot of the things they're adding here, not just that, but some things we're gonna touch later on with the hunts, that's basically for the people on PlayStation, because they don't have tools like ACT or external sites they can just put up on the side and have a fucking thingy ding ding every time it's time to go to a node.
Exactly.
So it is like making the game more like leveled field for everyone. You're not gonna have a super edge just because you have a PC that can run Firefox on the side.
There's also the other thing that we already have the in-game alarm system added from I think it was in 4.5.
No, it was sooner. It was actually sooner. It was 4.3 or something where they added it. And they used it once, pretty much. Never used it again.
There's an in-game alarm system. If you do the /alarm command, it will bring up a menu where you can make alarms which will go off in either real time or in Eorzea time.
What? Really?
Yeah. So now what you can do, or at least you can do it when Shadowbringers comes out, is you can open the gathering log, find when the node that you want to harvest will spawn, and then just make a repeating alarm for it. No external sites required at all.
Wow. I did not know this was a thing at all. That's cool. How did I miss that?
What you can actually
it wasn't
do
exactly
currently...
It wasn't exactly a really high-profile feature that they added.
What you can actually do currently is make a macro for the timers that tells you when they spawned. But pretty much the problem is you still have to use an external site, so it's not useful for PS4 players. And yeah, that change is completely dedicated to PS4 players, because PC players had it already in some way or regard.
I mean, I'm a PC player, and I'm still absolutely ecstatic that they're adding this.
Yeah, it's one more thing you need to do on the side, less clutter outside of the game, and something that's actually in the game. Just like we mentioned earlier, or I mentioned earlier too, they're gonna do the same thing for hunts. As soon as an S rank spawns, you'll have a little notification. And when you're hunting a B rank, you will sense if it's close and the direction to it.
They're also raising
And again,
the
why did they do
Centurion
this?
cap.
Yeah, raising the Centurion seal cap finally, which is gonna be fucking handy. But why did they do this? Because, do you remember this old Guildworks thingy that was going around a couple of years ago?
No.
I think ACT absorbed most of that stuff, but basically, Guildworks could server-wide detect, as long as someone that used Guildworks were in the zone that an S-rank spawned in, they could detect that because that's zone-wide.
Nice.
The S-rank renders zone-wide. So that meant that the Guildworks app detected that and sent a ping out to everyone on that server immediately when it happened.
Yeah.
Which is good for them, but now everyone can be a part of that. You don't have to use that external dumb program.
Trust system is added, and I don't want to discuss any, mechanical details,
Nah.
because I wasn't there in the media tour, and neither was anyone else here, so we haven't, but I did like watching the example that Yoshi gave of taking, Thancred, Minfilia, and Urianger through Don Meg. That was really cool, because there was, cross-party banter. Each of the characters has their own personality. For example, they have flat-out confirmed that you should never take Alice ever, because she steals the limit break and stands in AoEs.
Alice does not give a single fuck.
It's amazing how they've actually managed to they've truly managed to recreate the experience of running a dungeon with other people, because they now have an NPC that will aggravate the ever-loving crap out of you.
That's so true. The only thing I would like to say about the trust system, though, I thought this was what squadrons were gonna be. We got squadrons. I leveled those up. I leveled my squadron to max basically, and I used that to level up a lot of my DPS classes. And I thought we were gonna be able to use them to go into dungeons and other world stuff later on, but no, we got these fancy NPCs from the main story, which is cool. I'm just a bit concerned that the entire squadron system is just gonna be put to the wayside now.
I think the big difference between the squadron system, there's two big differences with the squadron system and the trust system. One, the trust characters are all predetermined, so they all have a specific class, and they are also all pre-existing characters. Whereas your squadron mates can be basically any class, and are all semi-randomly generated. And also, taking squadrons into dungeons is not the extent of the squadron system. I'd argue that sending these squadron members out on missions is the more important part. And
true.
The trust system, at least unless they announce some sudden change later, definitely isn't going to be used for that.
No, the trust system, as I understand it, is just for main scenario dungeons, basically.
Yes.
And the squadron in and of itself, that's selected dungeons, and I'm sorry, Screenix, but some of those dungeons doesn't really gel well with the AI you programmed. I'm sorry.
Veil.
Running actually, Orenvale isn't that bad, because the squadron members are able to brute force their way through it thanks to their massive health buff. But
Amdapur Keep, though. Last boss of Amdapur Keep, anybody?
No, not that. The worst one absolutely has to be the Vault, because in Squadron a lot of bosses have mechanics where they will target a random player.
Yeah.
And in Squadron dungeons, those mechanics will always target you specifically, because you're the only player there.
Exactly.
And every single boss in the Vault has powerful random player targeting attacks. So, for example, first boss, you're always going to be targeted for shield slams and dive attacks. Second boss, you're going to be targeted for every single black hole. Third boss, you're going to be targeted for every single explosion.
And if you haven't leveled your squadron up to a good level,
They
you're
aren't going to
gonna
keep up.
suffer a lot of DPS loss there because you have to move around like a motherfucker.
Let me see. Next patch note. New worlds being added to the European data centers. Chaos is getting Spriggan and Light is getting Twintania. I think Light got the better end of that.
Yeah, definitely.
It's unfair.
Who wants to be on Spirigan?
There's a patch note reading on June the 27th, the day before the early access starts for pre-orders, but it will be in Japanese only.
Yeah, but the balance has some good translators, so...
Cutting out there. Angel?
Oh, is it on my end? Oh, I got 1k ping. Okay, I should be back now.
Okay, yeah, you'll get that.
Yeah, as you said, it's all in Japanese, but the balance has a really good live letter section. And they have some translators on standby that does that stuff for us most of the time. So keep an eye on the balance if you aren't on there already.
We got...
I wouldn't advise you to interact with the community, but they have some good information.
Balance community isn't that bad.
I mean, in the end, they just read the patch notes that we can read in English ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
We got a tentative, meaning it's going to go out the window immediately, schedule for Shadowbringers. 28th early access, whereas the 2nd is when everyone else gets it. 2 weeks after that, 5.01 and Eden comes out. 2 weeks after that, 5.05 and Eden Savage comes out. Phantasmagoria is introduced, and more interestingly, or at least more out of the ordinary, the Dungeons of LII, which are, from what I heard, going to be the Shadowbringers equivalent of the Treasure Map dungeons. So that's when that comes out. Let me see. System updates are being added, so all mounts will now have flight, which I'm happy because I can now actually use all my mounts. Because if a mount didn't fly, you basically didn't use it.
Doesn't this make flying mount roulette totally obsolete?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're probably just going to remove that button from the game. They have materia melding requests can be sent in succession, so you can now actually get someone else to meld your materia without it taking days, which means that no more having... You can now get your crafter friends to pentameld your raid gear. And the retainer window has also been updated, and I like it.
Thank you.
It
looks great.
Amazing change.
All of that, like, honestly, in terms of the actual useful information, that UI isn't really any better than the current UI, but it just looks so much better. And being able to tell information at a quick glance, for example, the gil counter will let me know if any of my retainers have sold them, so I don't need to check in and out of every single one of my retainers when I log in.
Yeah, and that also means you don't have to pull your items off the market board temporarily to do so, and potentially miss a sale.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So that overview is awesome in my opinion.
And that's pretty much all of the live letter stuff, or at least all of the actual live letter information covered.
Yeah.
The last thing that
they managed to pad it out pretty well, though.
Yeah. Jesus. The last thing that was covered in the live letter was Eden, which gives us a perfect segue onto the actual intentional meat of today's podcast, which is raiding.
Our main topic, so to say.
Yes.
And yes, what is raiding then? Like, we have normal raids. That's 8-man content. They're fairly hard, at least on release. But then we get something else that's called Savage, and this is not like for everyone. Honestly, it's not. This is pretty hardcore stuff. At least the 2 later floors. There's always 4 floors on each raid tier. First 2, at least the first one, is not that bad most of the time. It's an EX Primal on steroids. The second floor, arguably at least in Stormblood, was easy to cancer. And then the third and fourth are generally considered hard fights.
It's
like legit
Let
hard.
me see. In Stormblood, Spaghetti Ball was considered difficult. The painting was considered easy, and Midgard Zoma was considered absolute cancer.
People struggle on that fight till this very day. Most of the player base have not cleared it seems.
Yeah, this was mainly due to static issues as opposed to the fights being really hard. But it took my static about 5 months to clear that fight, which is why I could never bring myself to farm it for gear. Thankfully, I only needed one piece of gear from Midgard, and it dropped on our kill, and I got it.
Oh. Fucking lucky.
Which means I never have to go into that godforsaken fight ever again.
Oh,
So
I wish I could say that.
I guess to just explain in a nutshell what raiding is for anyone who is new to the concept. Raiding is completing optional and difficult trials. In a nutshell, that's what it is. So
it's there to... It doesn't give you any story. It doesn't give you anything outside of some better gear, which is not really needed for anything outside of Savage. But it's a good challenge and something you can do with up to 7 friends or 7 assholes, depending on your situation.
You can argue that there's essentially 3 tiers of raiding difficulty. The lowest tier are the extreme primals, and the upper end of that is the minstrel's ballad. These range from not that bad to unreasonably easy, all the way up to agonizingly frustrating. For example,
I think in Tsukuyomi Simon says, yes.
God. For example, Ravana Extreme back in Heavenswood. I went in there synced to help a friend clear it. Our off tank just disappeared because they wanted to cause problems, and so we had to 7-man Ravana with a single tank. And if you've done the Ravana fight, Ravana has mechanics which specifically target the off tank, so we had to have DPS handle mechanics that were supposed to be handled by a tank. And yet we, like, for example, Ravana's slicing attacks which destroy the walls behind people. Even though we had to deal with that, we still cleared Ravana Extreme on the first pull. So Ravana...
That was the same with Lakshmi, right? Yeah. They also had a mechanic with the highest second aggro got targeted by something.
Yeah.
I remember doing that fight on Samurai before Diversion was changed. You know how often I was second aggro? A lot. So I had to learn how to actually step to the side, press the fucking Vrill button or whatever it was to survive that mechanic. I had to learn how to do that on a freaking DPS like the third time I was in there.
Alternatively, the upper end of the extreme primals is actually worthy of being considered raiding. For example, you the best example of these are the Minstrel's Ballads, which are generally the most difficult fights or the most difficult trials in those expansions. So, for example, there is the trauma that Shinryu's Minstrel Ballad inflicted on everyone, or the Tsukiyomi's Pain Minstrel's Ballad. But even then, and then the mid tier of raiding are the Savage Raids, which are grouped into tiers of 4 fights each. How these fights play out depends on the expansion. For example, Stormblood Savage fights are just in, boss fight, kill it, leave. Whereas the Alexander fights were a lot more varied. There were trash mobs, there were twin bosses, there was a boss rush, there was a trash arena in A2.
Don't remind me of that bad fight.
And let's just try and entirely forget T3, which is basically just a jumping puzzle.
Yeah.
Savage jumping puzzle.
At least they tried something different. I feel. I don't know. I know.
Yeah, but imagine being a high-tier raider and having to complete a jumping puzzle every week for your lockout.
Yeah. In my opinion, raiding for me before I started raiding, I thought it was we go into this high-end zone, there's gonna be some hardcore trash, and then we're finally gonna reach this boss, which is gonna be semi-impossible to beat. And Coil was sort of like that. Alexander has some of it, but in Stormblood, they just said, no, here's the circular square arena, there's the boss, go.
I do kind of miss the trash in the Stormblood fights, to be honest, because like Coil,
It added flair.
Coil,
it like added some world building.
Coil and Alexander, the raid levels were like mini dungeons, whereas in Stormblood they are basically just harder trials. Not that I necessarily mind. There's a lot of good stuff in Stormblood. For example, Stormblood is the only expansion where all of the fights actually worked on release. That's Savage. And then Savage used to be the top tier, but with Stormblood came the introduction of the ultimate tier of difficulty. We only have 2 ultimate fights right now. The ultimate coil of Bahamut and the ultimate weapon ultimate. And according to the devs, we'll be getting 2 more in Shadowbringers. They considered 3, but apparently the raiding community's reaction to this was, dear God, please no. Dear God, no, absolutely not. I can't handle it. Dear God, no, please have mercy, Yoshi P.
Well, let me tell you like this. Like, I did Uwu, one of those ultimate fights in my old static before the server split. And even with one dude that had cleared the fight on multiple jobs and a top tier rating static, it took us 2 goddamn months of like 3 to 4 hour lockouts basically every day to kill that fight. 17 minutes long.
Yeah.
It is a fucking commitment. Like, let me tell you, it's not easy, and it's not for the people that just want to get in there and get it done. Like, no, that's not the mentality. Like, you need to learn everything, at least for your role in there.
Yeah, it's like Extreme Trials and Savage Runs, they are clearly significantly more difficult than the regular content, but they still operate on the same basic principles as regular content. But Ultimate, it's not just difficult, it actually plays by its own rules.
Oh yeah. And not just does it play by its own rules, the first Ultimate fight they released, Yuka, which was Twintania, Nail Vandaros, and Bahamut, and then Bahamut Prime, or whatever the fuck comes at the end, that is still not properly fixed. That's a buggy ass fight.
It doesn't play by its own rules.
No, it doesn't even play by its own rules, but Twintania back in the day was buggy as is, so it seems like they just copied over a lot of those things, and a lot of the old inherent bugs just stayed. And not just that, like the instances that they use for UCOB in particular, they're wonky. Like legit wonky. Like sometimes the twisters appear at 50% of the cast, 75, 90, like it's completely random. And when it comes down to a fight with that level of difficulty and that level of time commitment you need to put in, it's not fun just to be screwed out of a good pull because the game tells you, lol, no.
Could you imagine being 16 minutes into a fight only to wipe to a bug? I've cleared dungeons in less than 16 minutes.
Dude, let me tell you, the first time we got really close to killing Uwu, the server tick didn't register the Scholar's Succor, and we wiped on the last raid wide before the final push to kill him. That was like the best pull we had in that entire week. And we couldn't even see if we could meet the DPS check. That was like, fuck my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's
the ultimate
put food up again and let's go again.
Essentially, like, if anyone listening does want to get into raiding, just go do it. Honestly, getting into raiding is not as bad as some people might think. The first fight of every tier generally is the same difficulty as the higher end of extreme primals. For example, if you did Tsukiyomi or Shinryu or even Suzaku extremes on content, you can go into A9S and you can go fight Chaos Savage.
Especially now with both better gear and echo applied to it.
Oh yeah, no, that's it. Like if you want to learn, go to it now, because like echo doesn't make completing the mechanics any easier. Or at least the actual mechanical part of the mechanics. Obviously, it makes DPS checks easier, but
it
you
makes
don't have to worry
a
about
lot easier.
Yeah, healing's easier, tanking's easier, not dying to random shit is easier.
And
Not
the DPS
hitting
check,
in rage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, actually, that's probably the biggest difference between regular content and raiding content, is the concept of an enrage. There are a handful of fights outside, like for example, Death Gaze Hollow at the start of Dunscath, or which has an enrage, but they're generally very rare. The difference between an enrage and a DPS check is that an enrage is based on just the length of the fight as a whole, and it's just designed to kill you. There's two types of enrage. There's a soft enrage, where it just gets more and more and more until you can't possibly keep up with it. An example of this would be Brute Justice Savage, where he spams a move called J-Kick over and over, and every time he does it, he gets a stacking damage buff to J-Kick until you just can't keep up anymore. You will just be killed. And then there's a hard enrage, which is just, you're all dead. An example of that is the end of Suzaku, where instead of doing the colors mechanic normally, every floor tile is the same color, and the explosion does 1,000,000 points of damage.
And then you have the O12S, which has both. You have 3 really hard-hitting raid wides that probably will kill you unless you have proper mitigation. And then there's the big hit at the end that will just wipe you.
But the main thing with an enrage, as opposed to just simply a DPS check at the end of the fight, is that the clock is constantly ticking. For example, in Fractal Continuum Hard, the final boss, the Ultima Beast, will do a really long, slow hard cast of Ultima at the end of the fight that will kill you. But this is a DPS check, not a enrage, because until you hit the health point where you will trigger that, he won't use it. Or Odin, or actually a better example, which more people probably know, is the Shinzan Tetsuken at the end of Odin. He uses that when he gets into 15%, regardless of, say, a specific time. Whereas an enrage just happens at a specific time, regardless of your performance. For example, Neo X Death's enrage will just happen at 12 minutes 15 seconds, regardless of your performance. He just says, "Get the hell out of my arena now."
It's the same with Uvu. It's a set time, but there's also a couple of things you can do to move it around. If you push him or let him do another cast of whatever the fuck it was before 50%, you get another little DPS push in there, so you have a little more leniency towards the end. And Uvu's Enrage, Ultimate Weapons Ultimate's Enrage, that's a funny beast. Like, he starts, he does the final raid wide, and then you just try to kill him, and you hopefully will have him around like 15-10% at that point. And one by one, from the lowest damage dealer to the highest, will get sucked into the middle of the arena, thrown up into the air, and just get killed. One by one, until there's only one person remaining. And the world first fight, the last person was in the air, about to die, and the fucking Ruby Carbuncle kills the fucking boss. How beautiful is that?
Yeah, that's Ultimate for you. Yeah, so that's
But the thing with Ultimate is, like, too, it got easier with time. We got dungeon gear that was better than the stuff we had before, even though it's a hard eye level sync on both Yukob and Ubu to 345 and 375.
I don't think we need to start getting into that kind of detail.
No. I'm just saying, like, it's easier now, even though the developers said at one point we will never, like, tamper with the difficulty of those fights.
I mean, to be fair,
they didn't tamper with that.
I mean,
No, they just gave us gear that made us better.
I would argue that the main source of difficulty in the Ultimate fights is more so the mechanics. Like, having an extra, like, 1,000 health and 60 DPS over the course of the fight isn't going to save you from an instant kill mechanic.
Yeah,
That's true.
The only things that give you the gear, especially in the case of Yukop, you can skip certain mechanics. For example, the second Tristar and Twintania at the first newer link. And a tank doesn't take that much damage, and it's just easier to heal the tank. But still, if you fuck up a Twister, you're freaking dead.
Oh yeah, you're probably gonna take someone with you too.
Yeah.
Actually, the other interesting thing about Ultimate compared to other fights is that the limit breaks are actually built into the design of the fight. For example, if I remember
Not
correctly,
really.
Uwu.
In case of Uwu, yes, but in case of Yuko, no, because
Yeah.
there are several cheeses you can do. The only limit break that is really built into the fight is the limit break on the nail to Bahamut transition, where you have to use a tank on V3 or else you die.
Yeah, that's mainly what I was referring to, where he like just turns into a ball of fire and roasts your party if you don't use the tank LV3.
So yeah, we basically touched on the basis of raiding there. So let's go around the room and actually talk a bit about our raid experience in this game. And we can talk about other MMOs later on. But Clay, Megumi, what is your raid experience in FF14? What have you done and what haven't you done?
I've pretty much started raiding in this game with Stormblood. And I've cleared every Savage and every trial in Stormblood, and currently I'm progging UCOP, and I've been to the trio before Octet, the name I keep forgetting, 10 Strike, right. Yeah, I've been to 10 Strike, and on Uwu I've been progged to Surprise, and I haven't killed any of those fights because I had a lot of problems, real-life problems, and I had to stop for an entire year to play this game while being an Uwu proc. So yeah, I couldn't kill Uwu, and now I'm currently progging UCOP pretty much, and we are going to probably kill it after Shadowbringers releases because we just don't have enough time. But yeah, that's my raid experience in this fight. The only thing I don't do in this game, at least currently in Stormlight I haven't done, were speedrun kills.
Okay, but I hope for your sake that they don't change too much of the level 70 gear skill set, so to say, for all the classes, so it's still doable, at least as soon as you want to do it after Shadowbringer hits.
Oh well, I looked over all of the classes because I was very interested about it, how UCOP and Uwu and stuff will work. Nothing particular changes. We still have everything there, every mandatory.
That's good, because some of the level 50 content and 60 content today is so gutted because there's no abilities to use on some jobs. Like, tell me that Bard is fun to play at level 50 with 2 songs.
Exactly. It's pretty much how they did it is they just added to the classes and removed the useless.
That's good. That's good. I haven't looked in too much about it.
They trimmed a lot of fat in Shadowbringers, and you can kind of tell also based on how certain classes changed. For example, Black Mage and Samurai basically haven't changed. They got a few extra really cool tools. For example, Samurai can double cast their EI Jutsus, and Black Mage got Xenoglossy, but they behave more or less the same. Another example would be Bard's Dots no longer scale on crit, so they're no longer getting barely any procs at the start of an expansion and too many at the end of the expansion. Whereas
thank God,
classes that needed it actually got rebuilt. And I'm not just talking about Dark Knight and Machinist. There were a lot of changes to Monk. There are a lot of changes to the healers, which we cannot talk about now, or this podcast will never recover.
The thing we can probably say quickly about healers, we didn't get a healer in this expansion. Wrong, we got 3 new ones because they reworked them so hard.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And
not really.
This is all stuff. This is all stuff that we'll be covering when Shadowbringers drops. So we should probably get back on track before this goes completely off the rails.
Yeah. So Variel, do you want to share your raiding experience and
so I'm pretty much the opposite kind of raider to Clay, whereas I'm quite a softcore raider. I got into it very recently. I started about 6 months after the Alphascape tier drops. I joined super late. I also had static issues, not like people being like drama boys or pistons or anything. Just like it was the end of the tier, so that happened. So the only 2 Savage fights in the game that I've completed are A9S and A10S, Chaos Savage and Midgard Zona Savage. But I have done other content. For example, I have cleared most of the Extreme Primals. The only ones that I haven't cleared synced are the Warring Triad, Byakko, Byakko, Shinryu, and Tsukiyomi. But in general, I started late and I didn't manage to get much done. But I've had a much more casual time of it. I've also actually leading my own static, and a lot of the people in my static are either completely new to raiding, not very experienced with raiding, or experienced but on a class that they didn't normally play. For example, we have a bard in our static who cleared Sigmascape, but he did it as an Astro.
Oh. Yeah.
So yeah, my experience is probably closer to the experience of anyone that's going to be starting off. The most difficult part is finding a static that you like. If you don't gel with your static, just leave. Just leave. Because
Well, you can always have a discussion, but get out of there and find a new one.
No, don't just be a baby and drop out with no warning just because someone annoyed you once. Actually discuss with your static. But if you find yourself not like your static just isn't working for you, like either you don't like the people there or they have different goals to you, just leave, because you don't want to be stuck there on a wall of a fight that you've been bashing your head against for 2.5 weeks. You've been stuck on the same mechanic for 4 hours straight with a bunch of people that you can't stand. Like, the classes in this game are very balanced, and there's no randomization to gear, unlike in some other MMOs. Whether you clear or fail is entirely dependent on your skill and your communication with your team. If you can't communicate with your team and you can't work with your team, you aren't going to clear content. A good example of this is we had a white mage in our static who, his personal performance was really good. He passed, or at least for our group, he passed high purple on both healing and damage, but he refused to communicate with anyone else. And because he refused to communicate with anyone else, we couldn't get past the last Akmorn of O10S, where it's going off during Exaflares. We just couldn't. We couldn't meet heal check because he wasn't communicating. Because we had a white mage and we had an Astro, and they just wouldn't work together.
Yes,
and it was almost entirely from the white mage's end. I don't know, it was entirely from the white mage's end. Like, the Astro even went so far as to make a timeline of the fight so people could plan out their cooldowns. I used that more than the healer, and I play Black Mage. Oh yeah, that's another piece of raiding advice, by the way. Don't prog on Black Mage. Don't do that to yourself.
No, Red Mage, please, and then Summoner or Black Mage, so you can res and actually be useful during
No, not even the res. Forget the res. If your party requires a Red Mage res, just tell them to get good. Just simply the fact of don't do that to yourself. Black Mage requires so much fight knowledge. Don't run it when you have no fight knowledge.
Makes sense. And as you said, by the way, please say something when you leave a raiding static, because we had a situation in my old group. We sat around for 2 weeks waiting for one of our healers to come back from his winter break. He never came back.
Oh god.
We just sat there being like, where is this dude? He was supposed to be back like a couple of days ago. We know he was going like away and he didn't bring his net with him, so he couldn't communicate because out in the country with his family or whatever. But he just never came back, and then all of a sudden he changed name on Discord and just left. Like 2 or 3 weeks later, we was like, okay, time to look for a new healer for Yuvu, I guess. And we lost 3 weeks of prog, basically.
That's disgusting.
Or 2 weeks. It's what it is, but like all he needed to say was just, this doesn't work, I'm leaving. Bye.
Actually,
then we would have known.
That's a good lady. Raiding is a team effort. there are many mechanics which require you to work together and to organize. You need to make split-second decisions. You need to have a party composition that works well together. It doesn't necessarily have to be the classic ninja, dragoon, bard, summoner, but you do need to work well together. And most importantly of all, you need to be able to trust in your static mates. When my static was brand new, back when we were doing Chaos, we wiped a lot of the time because one person would move to the correct position, then they would see their partner moving, not think their partner was moving to the wrong place, adjust for that, the partner would move to the correct place anyway, and then, because the original person moved to adjust, the whole thing went pear-shaped and we wiped, whereas it would have been fine if they just trusted in their static partner.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things in this game you always need to take into consideration. There is so much input lag, like, not just from you, but from what you're seeing on the screen. A person might not be there when you think he is there. And that's something you need to adjust to, especially here on the crappy European... Yeah, especially on the European servers.
Let's put it this way. If everyone here remembers Starboard Larboard from O11S...
Fuck that. Like, the thing I want to say before you go into that spiel, both in Japanese and in German, it's just called left and right.
That's not even my spiel. That's not my spiel.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it is. The point,
Great.
Starboard Larboard was purely a choice from Koji Fox, and he got into trouble for it. I remember him mentioning. I remember him mentioning on the live letter that he found out that people getting pissed over Starboard Larboard, went to check when he went to check online, got called into Yoshi's office, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna get fired now." But anyway, my point is,
why not Starboard and Port?
The point that I was actually going to say was Omega in Savage has a different mechanic called Starboard Larboard Surge, where he will do one and then flip and instantly cast the other one. So the way you survive this is stand in the safe half and then immediately run across Omega when Starboard or Larboard goes off. You need to do this instantaneously or you're going to get hit and you're going to get killed. And you're doing this with what is essentially a 3-second server tick. In practice... It isn't a problem anywhere near as often as you think it would be, because this game is very good at predicting where you should be. But if it's a mechanic that requires sudden adjustments of movement, you will, almost certainly and inevitably, be killed in a way that you shouldn't.
Oh yeah.
I think this is also where I just take my opportunity to say, fuck O10S. Bulwark is a horribly designed mechanic. Thank God I need to never do that fight again.
Anything else to add there, Variel?
Fuck O10S again. I really hate that fight.
Dude, I'm right there with
It didn't help. It didn't help that I ran it as a black mage. So much forced movement. Oh, my uptime. For anyone who's not experienced with raiding vocabulary, uptime is basically just the time you spend attacking. Any time that you can't attack, for example, if the boss is buggered off and become untargetable, or if you're being forced to move by mechanics and you can't land an attack, that's called downtime. And as you mentioned earlier, every Savage fight has an Enrage, which requires a constant level of DPS across the entire fight to beat. Uptime good, downtime bad. One other thing that we actually did want to cover as well, and one of the reasons why we have our lovely guest here, Clay, is...
Should I first do my Savage spiel?
Actually, yes, sorry. You should.
I was waiting for you to wrap up so I could start that. I'm gonna quickly just go through it. I didn't raid in ARR. I believe, if I remember correctly, I did the first coil at the very end, like even with Echo, because I wanted to try it out, but... Back then, I had no social skills. I was too scared to even join a party finder. Like, I think I queued up to Duty Finder to do that. That was even possible. That was so long ago, I don't remember. Alexander I skipped in its entirety. I did a lot of normal mode, and I enjoyed that. Like, in their day one, discovering how to figure out the fights. That was when my interest in Savage started. And I believe it was the day before Echo was introduced, I beat A9S. And I didn't spend that much time learning the fight, but I had to adjust to the tempo, and I had to really nail my rotation.
Yeah.
And that was when I decided, as soon as Stormblood hits, I'ma fucking get right in there. And then Stormblood hits, and Dragoon is a horrible fucking mess to play, so I had to switch mains. So I had to quickly choose something else. I'm like, I don't fucking know. Samurai? Yeah, I'm a weeb. I like that shit. So
Worst
so
decision in his life.
Yeah, exactly. So I leveled up Samurai real quick, and I get Alteroid and Catastrophe down pretty quick. And then I think it was week 3, I actually managed to beat Halicarnassus too, but that was after so much fucking pain. I don't know how many like book progress runs I joined, or like after book phase parties that couldn't even get through cave phase, like the first 2 phases basically. It was horrendous trying to prog it. And even with 1 death, we barely just beat the Enrage. And that was with decent DPS, like, still back then. 1 death on week 3 would have been a wipe. And that was pretty harsh. And then I saw before me Neo X death, and I was like, I'm gonna take a break. No. Like, after that Halicarnassus fuckery, like, no, I'm gonna skip X death. So I didn't do X death on content. But moving on to Sigmascape, I found a static basically week 1, just in Party Finder. Join this Discord, we're trying to get into raiding more. And I stuck with that static for a year, and we beat that raid tier week 9. We got God Kefka down, and I was still on Samurai, shit was cool. Moving on to, we don't need to touch much upon Sigmascape for me, because Sigmascape for me was basically when I just adjusted and got good. Somewhat.
A lot of people also consider
Deltascape
Sigmascape to be one of the more boring tiers.
I actually liked it the best, but that's probably because I have the most connection to it. Like, I did Guardian in
Doom Toot.
When I reached Guardian, I had to go back and help people get through the previous fights. There would be more people to pug it with before I found the static. It's like, there's no PFs for this. Help! I want to do the fight. Like,
yeah, but that's because no one likes running Guardian.
Nah, I like Guardian.
Even Guardian normal is is difficult. Oh no, I don't think Guardian's a bad fight, but there's a reason why it's one of the more infamous fights out of Stormblood.
Guardian normal is just, it's weird. The problem why 07S Guardian is hated by the community is not because of the randomness that this fight has, because that was the cool part about this fight, definitely. Like, when you ask someone, hey, what did you like about 07S? They say, the randomness, it was very cool and very refreshing all the time. The problem is just virus, and then again, there we come back to server tick, because the server tick is so bullshit. Mechanics like virus, or in general people call it rot in this game, because that was pretty much the first mechanic we had in that sense. Virus pretty much works. You have a debuff, and you can pass it to someone else if you run through him, or if the other person runs through you. And pretty much how the server tick works is, if you just run through the person, you won't get the virus. You have to stand still, wait for a second, and then the person gets the virus. And before that mechanic, you have magnet tethers that pushes you away or pushes you together, depends on what tethers you have. And the problem is, when you have a ping, like, let's say a 20 ping to the server, but your melee partner, it was one of the melees will get the virus first. If your melee partner has a ping of 200, and after you get knocked back, you had to stay next to each other for the entire duration of the knockbacks, or else you get feared. If your partner had a 200 ping, the mechanic was impossible to play, because he moved later because of the server tick. He got a later server tick than normal. Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
he got the latest server ticks than you do. That means you are already at the position and then your teammate comes. And the mechanic says if you are too far apart, you get feared. And that's what always happened. It was impossible, and that's why people hated the fight.
That
I can
reminds
definitely relate
me.
to that.
Yeah, that issue with server ticks and swapping virus applies to all buffs which require you to swap something with someone else. That's why
Exactly.
I hate Bulwark in O10S with an absolute passion. Essentially, Midgard Zoma has a phase in the middle of his fights where he will start using attacks which hit for a flat 200k. They can be mitigated, but even with every mitigation possible, it'll still one-shot a tank. The idea behind Bulwark is his attacks will target a specific person, and they're all AoE as well. So the idea is that someone has Bulwark. You run over to them, you get targeted, you run over to them, grab Bulwark, you run away from the party so that Midgard Zoma's big-ass cleave doesn't kill everyone else. Then you move back to a position where you swap Bulwark, and this repeats. Midgard Zoma has like a 180-degree conal cleave. Looks like 120. It's more than that, trust me. And essentially, you need to keep swapping Bulwark between party members, because if you don't, someone who isn't supposed to eat an attack will eat it. And these attacks have such massive AoEs that they will kill the entire party. For example, one issue that we had a lot of time during Prog was the first 4 attacks that Midgard does is an attack called Crimson Breath, which is that 180-degree conal cleave for 200k damage that I mentioned. And what would happen is, we would have a party marker, a marker for the person who was targeted to stand on, and then a marker to swap the Bulwark in the middle, and person with Bulwark and target would both move to the swap marker. They'd sort of shuffle around each other. The Bulwark wouldn't swap, and then Midgard Zoma would just turn around and one-hit KO the entire party. Bulwark, for some reason, will not swap unless one of the people involved in the swap is absolutely still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And moving on to the last raid tier, when the static I was in, we decided we're gonna go in hardcore with new crafted gear day 1 and see how far we can get. And we killed Chaos in an hour in Midgard Stormer day 2, and then we beat the entire raid tier week 2.
Wow.
Or week 3, I can't remember. Yeah, you say Midgard Stormer is a cancer fight. I have 25 confirmed uploads on that fight. I hate the 2 with a burning
It's
passion.
not even necessarily that Midgard Zoma is difficult. He is difficult, but the difficulty is not the problem. I love O11S, and that has arguably even more forced movement than Midgard does. O11S is the bane of a Black Mage's existence, but I still love the fight. I hate O10. Oh god, when our static hit Panto 2, you could hear audible gasps from half of the static. Someone just went, oh shit. Because if you don't know, in the last 2 phases of the O11S fight are Pantocrator 1 and Pantocrator 2, which are a series of rapid-fire mechanics that go off so quickly they overlap. When Pantocrator 2 goes off, Omega just goes completely berserk. He starts firing dozens of missiles into the air and just showering the arena with missiles as a raid wide, and he does this constantly. And he starts like stamping his feet and shuffling around in place and firing off lasers, and everything gets louder and faster and brighter. It's the fight. Genuinely is, I think it's one of my it's my favorite fight in the game that I've been in so far, purely on the merits of like the visual presentation. It's incredible.
It is, like, visually it is really impressive. And compared to Midgardsormr, it's a boring arena, in my opinion, and the boss is just too huge
Also,
to be comprehensible.
The other issue with Midgardsormr's fight is that he has bloody Primogenitor as a theme. It's like, yes, let's take this theme from Keeper of the Lake and later on Heavensward, which is supposed to be a theme of loss and depression and decay and death and disappointment and misery, and then let's put it on what's supposed to be a savage fight, a difficult savage fight as well. Midgardsormr is a wall of a fight and would be a wall even if he wasn't completely non-functional half the time.
The thing I said first time I saw Midgardsormr was like, who the fuck wanted Keeper of the Lake Extreme or
like,
Savage?
It's the only fight in the entire game where I have had to turn off the music. I will say with these specifically, the music for Stormblood has been in the Storm for the Omegascape raid tier has been such a downgrade from Alexander.
Yeah.
There's been some
definitely.
there's been some really good stuff in
11S, for example.
Stormblood. For example, the Neo-Exdeath theme and Kafka's the Exdeath and Kafka themes have been pretty good, and chicken tendies. I like that ride. Escape is one of my favorite tracks in the entire game. I had it playing in my house for a long time. It's up there with Brute Justice's theme. That's another reason to raid. The music has some of the best music in the game. Like,
definitely.
I remember when I was farming Sephiroth Extreme a while ago for the mount, and he has a lot of mechanics which will just instantly kill you. Even unsynced, that fight can still be difficult. But I remember at one point ballsing up a mechanic and killing the entire party because I was jamming out too hard. I don't do stuff like that anymore, thankfully.
It tends to happen, but that's what I like to do now. Like, have always been my thing with raiding. I want to get in there early, and I want to, like, experience it for myself. I don't want people saying to me, like, oh, you need to go watch these videos and read these guides. Like, no, I want to discover the fight by myself. I'm an old school gamer. I'm 31 years old. I don't like hand-holding. But people force it onto you.
There's some awesome stuff in the Savage raids, and I'll include Coils under that, because Coils, in my opinion, is not as difficult as the Savage raids, but it is definitely too difficult for you to do in the Duty Finder. It's significantly hard. It's like the difficulty of the Coils is essentially halfway between current Savage and current normal. Like, you're not gonna spend, especially now that there's like eye level, you can go in with eye level 300 gear and echo.
Yeah. Like, back then it was actually difficult. It was like, experience rates here, like, everything was not balanced. It's pretty much like World of Warcraft Classic, why people say World of Warcraft Classic was hard. The actually thing with Coil is that, turn 13, that was actually a freaking hard fight. I've did that on minimum item level, and I thought, like, holy shit, why does this tank buster do 95% of the tank on the warrior that uses Inner Beast and freaking Vengeance? Like, that shit hit hard as fuck.
Yeah.
And,
in my opinion, mechanically speaking, Coils aren't as difficult as current Savage.
Oh, exactly. Mechanical speaking, not.
Not even close.
But it's hard hitting. It's like the reason why UCOP is hard. UCOP is not hard because the mechanics are particularly hard. Well, up to when you're in trials and stuff like that, the mechanics will be very hard, especially up Heavensward. But UCOP is hard because it's hard hitting. People wipe on Golden Bahamas because extra flare dodging is hard. Extra flare dodging is the easiest thing you can do in your life. I can do it while I'm sleeping. The problem is just the length, and because it's so hard hitting. The tank busters and the group busters are so precise that you, if you forget a single mitigation, it could be even a 3% mitigation or like 5% mitigation from the mechanist, you're dead because you just survived them with 500 HP.
That does kind of remind me of Tail End from O10S, but obviously I don't think Tail End is quite as bad.
Oh no, Tailend is not that bad.
Although actually the issue with Tail End is that you can eat two, or the number of Tail Ends you eat is random because it's based on how the swaps work.
Exactly. I did it as tank and it was horrible. I did it as paladin and paladin has a problem. And luckily they finally changed it in freaking Shadowbringers, even though people requested it in Arboreum Reborn. Pretty much the problem is Sentinel. If you have bad RNG and always have the boss, you can't mitigate the last tank buster because you don't have cooldowns anymore. You're just dead. That was the problem I personally have with Midgard Zombie, because like, hey, you are unlucky. Your group is not the best because it's casual raiding group, so they don't so they are not able to skip that last talent. You are freaking dead, son.
But I think, as you guys mentioned, that coils were easier. I think that's also an evolution of the player base and the inherent base level skill.
That's true.
Like,
exactly.
You get better at the game. More guides are getting out there. More people are getting up there in skill level. You need to up the difficulty of the end game content, both on the EX primals and on the Savage.
Although, to be entirely fair, that's what happened with Gordius. And funky, fresh raiding history lesson for our beautiful listeners today. When Coils finished, there isn't a Savage Coils. Well, technically speaking, there is, but only the middle tier has a Savage equivalent. The final tier doesn't. People went, Yoshi P. This is fun, but we want something even more difficult. We want something harder. So they gave us something more difficult. They gave us Gordius. People going, oh, Coils was cleared too quickly. We need something. Which, by the way, as an aside, that is such a stupid argument. Okay.
Coils was actually didn't clear too quickly.
This is easy because it was cleared too quickly argument is so stupid. People always go like, oh, back in old school MMO, back in FF11, back in EverQuest, back in Classic WoW, blah, 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 blah. This took 4 months to clear. You'll find that that's usually because the barrier of entry into that content was a pain in the ass. If you have a piece of content that can be entered instantly and repeated indefinitely by the absolute top tier players and the world firsters, of course it's going to be cleared extremely quickly. That's not because it's easy, it's because you've given a group of players that know the game inside out, top to bottom, back to front perfectly, unlimited, infinite access instantaneously to this piece of content. But that's a side rant. The issue with Gordius is that Gordius was essentially balanced to be completed with the gear that you got from completing Gordius. So everyone went into Gordius with gear that was too low, and it just took forever. Gordius holds the record of having the second longest completion time of any raid tier, as far as I know at least.
I wasn't raiding back then, but I listened to a lot of podcasts, and apparently so many statics broke on Pepsi Man, it wasn't even funny.
Pepsi Man is living liquid, by the way. It's A3. He was the real killer, not A4. A4 was actually considered easier than A3, which just goes to show how balked Gordius was. But the issue with Gordius is that Gordius took just over a month to complete. The only raid tier that took longer to complete than Gordius was the first coil of Bahamut, which took about 50% longer to complete. But that's because the servers were down for the first 2.5 weeks of First Coil because they had to do so much maintenance on it to make it work. They had to pull Second Coil down constantly for not just balancing tweaks but outright maintenance. Back then, the European data centers were in fucking Canada for some
Montreal, Canada.
for some baffling reason. So everyone,
US, Europe, what's the difference?
So everyone basically had to play with a ping of 500 on a fight which required near perfect timing. But anyway, that's the point. Gordius took forever to complete. The raiding community asked for something that was difficult. They asked for something that took long to complete. And it made them realize no one wants that. Gordius almost killed the raiding community. Statics broke upon Pepsi Man, like toy boats being thrown off cliffs onto jagged rocks. And then what happened is that Squeenix took the feedback from Gordius, namely, for the love of God, please stop it, it hurts, Father, stop it, no. And we got Midas, which is considered by a very... I didn't run it. I haven't even run it synced yet, so I'm just preaching to the choir. I'm preaching from the choir. But a lot of people consider Midas to be the best raid tier in mechanics, presentation, timing, difficulty. You hit that perfect sweet spot.
Not really. The difficulty actually not. The thing is with the problem first of all, the argument with the way it's like, yeah, this game is too easy because it's cleared too fast is in other games you have gear progression. Pretty much they put gear progression into Gordius, and it was utterly bullshit because this game is just not made for gear progression. And pretty much then, yeah, they took the feedback and they said, like, please don't make gear progression. That's what the community said. And then Square Enix got into making a hard raid. And actually, for most people, Midas wasn't clearable because it was just too hard. For example, let's take the last tier, Brute Justice. You had to play it perfectly to be able to clear it, because one death in a mandatory mechanic meant Brute Justice gets damage up, and at that point, every AoE in the fight killed you. And the damage debuff was permanent. So literally, you died when one person fucked up, and so that's why most people couldn't clear this. I probably think Midas has the least clear percentage of all tiers pre-nerf.
Oh,
I mean, fair enough. Like I said, that wasn't my opinion on Midas. That was the community's opinion in general. But I remember seeing a lot of jokes coming out of Midas back in the day. Like, I remember watching one of Nest's videos from when they were farming Brute Justice, and they basically reenacted the paddling sketch from The Simpsons. Die in a mechanic. That's a wipe. Think about dying in a mechanic. That's a wipe. Laugh at Brute Justice. That's a wipe. Wipe in A7S. That's a wipe.
Yeah, that's actually how Midas worked. It's literally...
Want to go farm A12S instead? That's a wipe.
Pretty much even if you died in the overworld, it was a wipe in Brute Justice.
It's like if taking a sip of your drink during downtime when the boss is untargetable. Auto clean.
That's a wipe. That's a wipe.
Also, I think probably one of the funniest things for me from Midas though was all of the wipes were hard wipes. It wasn't a case, or like a lot of them were. It wasn't a case of like people failed the mechanic, it snowballed into a wipe. It was like one person made a slight mistake, a Brute Justice goes, auto cleaning engaged, and you just have to restart the fight. It's like, I noticed dust on the raid floor. Auto cleaning engaged. Wipe.
Well, you can compare that again to A10S. Sometimes something happens in A10S and it's like, okay, it's over. Or O10S, I mean, in Midgar. Like, okay, the tank just died, the wrong tank has a debuff, and we have to wipe.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And it takes 2 fucking minutes to do so because the boss jumps away and stuff like, oh, it's just like, why?
Wiping in that fight was just stupid. Like,
I almost feel like O10S was designed with the difficulty of a third fight in a tier in mind, because like tiers follow a progression of difficulty. Like all of the tiers. This varies, like the specifics vary from tier to tier, but all tiers follow a general progression where they get more difficult as you go through the tier, and the first fight is a fight which is easy enough for people new to raiding to get into. Meanwhile, the final fight in the tier is something that really makes you work. It's always got something that is going to kill everyone. Hello World, Grand Cross, Forsaken, Time Stop, Meteors in Nail Vandanas. There's always something. But generally it's as smooth a line as Square Enix can get to. Obviously, sometimes it doesn't quite work out like that. Like Pepsi Man is harder than the fight that comes after him. Guardian is balked, whereas Kefka is not quite as balked. Halicarnassus, depending on your party comp, could be more difficult than X-Death. Fun fact about Halicarnassus, by the way. Her Tank Buster is an automatic critical hit, and Paladins cannot block critical hits. So, Paladins were absolutely screwed on A3S. I mean, like, yeah, you could take awareness.
But we can block critical hits.
No, you can't. Critical hits come before blocks in the check priority.
Oh, well, critical hits in general can't be blocked or parried or stuff.
You can't, although parry doesn't really...
You used awareness. Yeah, you used awareness, and in general, you didn't tank Halicarnassus anyways because the warrior did it.
Yes.
You tanked the ad that also critted, but you could just pop awareness sentinel and that's it. All the ads. Yeah.
Although, to be honest,
that fucking white flame hit like a goddamn.
There is one issue with that. They're getting rid of awareness in the next expansion, so
it's fine.
They're actually getting rid of a lot of ways to cheese mechanics in the next expansion.
Thank you. Let us do it properly.
Awareness is gone. Knockback immunity is not gone, but it's on a significantly longer cooldown. They quadrupled the cooldown on Shorecast, for example.
But then again, tanks have knockback have arm's length now.
Yes. Yeah, but arm's length has a 2-minute cooldown now.
It's fine, you don't need it more. Like, the only fight where you need it more than this particular cooldown of 2 minutes is literally MF, where the first knockback and the second knockback are exactly 30 seconds apart.
Sophia.
Sophia's
arena.
There are a lot of exceptions. Also, Sophia is literally you cheese and the main mechanic in the fight, so that's just stupid.
Sophia's tips are exactly 30 seconds apart, so when I farmed it as a black mage, I could just shorecast every single arena tip. But this is segueing into the next section of our wonderful, well-organized podcast. Thank you, viewers at home. Is I reckon that the raids in Eden are going to be significantly less cheesable because because they're just taking away so many tools to cheese. They're
and they also learned a lot, like the warrior sheaths on Phantom Train, the LB sheaths on the second fists on A11 or O11. Like, they've learned, they know now how we think and how we operate. Like, they can't get away with doing certain things, so they're just gonna design the fights not to have those elements anymore.
Yes,
I actually doubt they will do it.
I hope.
They said
they
actually we haven't got any concrete information, so you're going to have to stay tuned until Shadowbringers to actually find out what they're actually doing, but they did specifically say that they were going to address limit break cheese.
Yeah, that's actually good.
Hello? They're also making it so that I also think they're making it so that duplicate classes will no longer ruin your limit gauge.
Oh, no, adopt that. That's like a general Final Fantasy thing. They let it be.
They should.
They just want pretty much what they want is they want everyone to have this be able to play, because like let's say they will actually remove it. What will happen? Meta will be 2 warriors. Probably you can even pair ninja and have trick attacks back to back, like a 20-second trick attack. Maybe a bard into it, or probably a dancer. And like you can go completely stupid with comms and have it like World of Warcraft, where you only take 1 mage, all warlocks, 1 warrior, just for the buffs. And then the best tanks, like, for example, I don't know about meta anymore in World of Warcraft, but for example, just 2 demon hunter tanks or stuff like that, and only priest or something because they give the best healing. So Square won't do this. Square is not stupid.
Fair enough. Actually, that reminds me. What? So out of the 3 of us, you've actually raided in other MMOs. What would you say are the differences between, say, raiding in this game and raiding in WoW? What does this game do better? What does WoW do better? Etc. etc.
There are freaking a lot of difference. This game, when I came first into this game, I was like, yeah, I've world procced in several games. I got world first and world seconds in other games and stuff like that. When I came into this game, I was like in that mindset, yeah, I'm gonna join that HC group at the start of Alpha and notice, hey shit, I can't play my class. And pretty much swapped classes and stuff like that. And it works very differently. How other games work is you are the player. If you play good, you are able to clear the content. You just have to have those other people not fuck up. But in Final Fantasy XIV is you can be a very good player. If your teammates are not on your skill level, they will drag you down. That's why pretty much I say to new players, if you are confident in yourself that you are capable to parse on orange, so pretty much be very good on your class and get everything out of your class. If you're confident with this, don't go in a mid-core static or even in a casual static. Join a hardcore static, because that will those players will reflect your skill level, and with those players you will have fun and you will able to be progress on your level of skill. Because in other games, for example in World of Warcraft, it really doesn't matter in what guild you are, as long as you're not doing world progress. If you want to clear Mythic, you can just either join a mid-core Mythic guild or a hardcore Mythic guild. In the end, you will clear Mythic.
I also wanted to ask you one thing there, Megumi. You raided in more than just World of Warcraft. Which, outside of Uvu and UCOB, of course, like the normal raids, has Savage raids or hardcore raids, which game is more difficult? World of Warcraft, Legend Souls, Final Fantasy? Like, what would you say?
Final Fantasy.
Really?
Yeah, just straight up Final Fantasy. World of Warcraft, for example, I say that all the time. World of Warcraft, the difficulty is not because personally the game is hard to you. The problem in World of Warcraft is you're raiding with 10 plus people there. That means humans are stupid. They fuck up. More people means more fuck up people. And that pretty much also means that you have more wipes in general and clear the content slower. But the mechanics itself are freaking easy. Like, when I played, when I joined on Alliance side, Party Finders pretty much, the raid tier in the first raid tier in BFA, I was like, dude, are there even mechanics in this fight? Because every boss has like 2 mechanics. In Final Fantasy, let's compare Gahun to Godcore or something. Gahun in World of Warcraft, you have this 2 to 3 mandatory mechanics that you have to do, but they are particularly easy for a single player if you are high skilled, pretty much. But in Final Fantasy on Godker, you don't have just I've played it as tank, by the way. And as Dragoon. Yeah, I played it as both. And you don't have just 3 mechanics that are that hard. No, you actually have 1 mandatory mechanic pretty much, that is Forsaken, but you have various Forsaken combinations. Then between the fight you have different mechanics that are pretty much on the level. Like the easy mechanics are on the level of mechanics in World of Warcraft. And the hard mechanics are, you have to consistently move. You have to consistently keep your GCD rolling. That's what good players always say to you as when you're playing melee or like tank or something. Always roll your GCD. And actually, there's something to casters that you say they have to do the ABC. That means always be casting. So you have to keep on so many stuff's track that I personally think Final Fantasy is way harder. That's why I also had I was also so freaking bad at the start of this game. I literally just parsed green to blue, and that is mediocre. And I'm a player that played on world pace in other games.
That's what I got when I started. So
Yeah.
you basically someone who'd done world firsts in other games, started at the same level as me. Someone with zero experience in any of this kind of content.
Yeah, because this game is so freaking different to MMOs I've played before. It's not that different because probably the best comparable MMO to this game is Terror, because it genuinely follows the same pacing and the same always be rolling, always stuff like that. It's just rotation works a bit differently. But in general, it's still what you want to do is combine your buff times with the group. It's not like in World of Warcraft, you have heroism. That is your big buff. In Final Fantasy, you have several big buffs. You have the trick attack. That is every 60 seconds. And you want to align all your buffs into this 10-second, every 60 seconds window. So, for example, Dragoon has Battle Litany on a cooldown of 180. That means in this cooldown window, there are 3 trick attacks. So that means every 3rd trick attack is a phase where you use Battle Litany. And where your ninja dedicates the pace when those raid buffs will be used. If your ninja says it's better to delay the trick attack for 10 seconds at that scenario, then everyone else has to delay their buffs for 10 seconds and always keep it in mind. For example, let's say Trick Attack comes out at the pole. After 60 seconds, the ninja says, I'm gonna delay it for 10 seconds. Then after 70 seconds comes the next Trick Attack. And the next trick attack comes after 60 seconds again. You as Dragoon, for example, have to keep in mind that you have to delay when Battle Litany is up. You don't press it instantly, you press it after 10 seconds. So the game is very different to raiding in other games, I personally think.
The one example, I did actually recently have this discussion with another friend of mine who also did a lot of high tier raiding in WoW and then moved to raiding in this game. A good comparison is that in WoW you're just kind of like just a mercenary group or a troop of men. You just turn up with like 25 guys and gank the ever-loving shit out of one boss. And it's a group effort, yeah, but it's just like 25 guys rocking up and kicking the kidneys out of some dude. Whereas in FF14, you are like a SWAT team or a special operations force. Everyone has a specific role. You turn up. Everyone has to do their job to the best of their abilities, and they have to coordinate together. For example, when my group did Midgard Zoma, Tail End has a really long cast time, so it's very easy to prepare for it, but it hits for 150k, which when we did it was easily enough, which is easily enough to one-shot a tank with no mitigation. So like we had the tanks mitigate, but we also had the Bard use Palisade, and we had the healers throw out shields, we had the Samurai use Feint. So the entire group had to work together to stop the tank from being turned into a kebab. That was actually, yeah, that was also the opinion. Your opinion seemed to line up with the opinion that my friend had, where she basically said that she said it the other way around though. She said that she finds raiding in FF14 easier because there's 8 people. You don't have to try and wrangle 25 stooges. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but 25-man Mythic? Is it Mythic or Heroic that's the harder one?
Mythic.
Yeah, 25-man Mythic is the equivalent to basically the higher tier of Savage in this game. Isn't it? It's like the most difficult content.
Well, that would be pretty much an equivalent to Ultimate, but that's like the thing, like, what do you compare Mythic with in Final Fantasy XIV? Do you just compare it to Savages? Then World of Warcraft raiding is definitely harder, because you still have those hard DPS checks, because Savage raiding currently is a joke. If you compare it to Ultimate, dude, Ultimate is so much freaking harder than Mythic raiding. First of all, the fights are longer. Second of all, you have way more mechanics that you have to memorize. Third of all, if one person fucks up, it's a wipe. It's not like in World of Warcraft where one person, well, he is dead. We can recover. We have 3 battle reses.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
I saw some raiders say that like battle resing in this game is too easy and there's not enough punishment to it. But the thing is, the difficulty is that the problem from battle resing is even if there's no direct penalty, is it's twofold. One, that DPS lost can be a real issue, especially if it's on your like biggest personal DPS character. For example, if I die, because I'm in my group, we have Black Mage, Samurai, Ninja, and Bard at the moment. And yes, Bard and no Dragoon, send me your hate mail. I don't care. Thank God they're getting rid of piercing down.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Anyway, and I generally tend to pass at about 500 to 1,000 higher than the Samurai. Towards the end, the gap tends to close. And if I die and I have the 25% damage down, that is a loss of about 2,000 raid DPS while I have that debuff. More so if it happens during a damage window. which means that makes meeting the enraged more difficult. But also, every single boss in this game has so many mechanics which just don't function properly if someone's dead when they go off. Like, Omega, someone's dead. Tank has a fist. Or any fight when something's supposed to target the off-tank, but the off-tank dies. Boom! Tank buster on the healer. It's more a fight-specific thing, at least in my opinion. The punishment for battle resing. It also changes the fact that repeated deaths really screw with your DPS, and because of the prevalence of enrages in this game, and I know DPS checks aren't that bad in Stormblood, but they were in Heavensward, and I'm willing to bet that they're going to be much harder in Eden than they are in Stormblood as well, because
Me either.
DPS and heal checks being too easy was one of the big complaints that I kept seeing all the way through all the way through Stormblood. And say what you want about the Final Fantasy XIV dev team, they do listen to people's criticisms.
They do.
So
they just don't care that much all the time.
sometimes what people say they want isn't what they actually want. Gordius proved
No.
that.
And also, always remember that the vocal minority,
That's true.
like the people that scream the loudest, they get heard, but a lot of people just sit back and be like, yeah, this is cool, and I don't have time to interact with this online sphere anyway, so...
What I'm willing to bet is that I'm willing to bet that the Eden raid tier is going to be better overall than the Stormblood raid tier, for a couple reasons. First of all, I think the story is going to be better for two main reasons. One, they didn't actually have a story for the Omega Scape, which, if you just want to raid, that's fine, but the story behind Omega Scape generally consists of Omega wants you to break his toys.
It was basically the Dragon Ball Z tournament arc.
Yeah, it was a tournament arc for the raid community. Yeah. Like, there was a story in Alphascape, which I liked. I would have liked more if there wasn't a complete lack of setup. Like there's actually a story behind Alphascape, which is why I like it more than Delta and Sigma. Except for O10S, fuck O10S. But also, Eden is going to be tied to the main storyline, while Alexander and Omegascape both weren't. And one of the reasons why Coils is so liked, and why Coil is because of the weight and sheer force behind the spectacle and the story of Coils, because it's so heavily tied to the backstory of the game. I mean, the final boss of Coils is Bahamut, the guy who single-handedly broke the world.
Well, it's Bahamut Prime. It's not really that Bahamut, but...
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but Bahamut Prime is a manifestation of that Bahamut. Like,
it's like Alex Prime.
If you want to get into semantics, Bahamut Prime is a manifestation of what little energy and life force is left in Bahamut, because, spoilers for anyone that hasn't been into Coils yet, but where you find Bahamut, his body has been ripped in half by the waist, and he's missing one of his arms and part of his head. Cool. He's in a bit of a shape.
So kind of like Yenova in Final Fantasy VII when you see her in the Midgar building the first time.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I also think Eden is going to be more mechanically interesting, because
I hope so.
They have the feedback from both Alexander and Stormblood. Because Alexander tried something and Stormblood tried something completely different. And so they have two sets of feedback to work off of. And this is also my personal opinion here, and it's not necessarily a slight against the dev team, but you can see in a lot of pieces of content in Stormblood that the devs weren't particularly passionate about it. Like, compare anything that happens in Girabania at all to anything that happens in Othard.
I've shared with you my Yoshi P Tanaka fact. Yeah, we'll take that on the next podcast episode because we need to start wrapping this one up.
We could cover that later, but my point is that there was not a lot of passion for Stormblood, at least for a lot of pieces of Stormblood, but the devs have passion coming out of their eyeballs for Shadowbringers. Everyone is super hyped.
And I think we're going to have a good discussion about that the next week when we do our Stormblood wrap-up and our Shadowbringers predictions.
Just before we finish the podcast, I want to ask you guys' opinions, because I think it's going to be Knights of the Round and Alexander, but what do you guys think we're going to get for the next two Ultimates?
Good question. I would like to see Alexander, just because, yes, the music, please, if nothing else.
The main reason why I think it's going to be Alexander over Nidhogg is that so far both of the Ultimates are kind of like a boss rush to them. Like, in Uko, it's not just Bahamut, you have Twintanya and Nail. In Uwu, it's not just Ultima, you have Ifrit, Titan, Garuda, and Lahabrea. So Alexander gives the dev team much more to work with than Nidhogg would.
And the other prediction I've heard that I'm not a big fan of is the Warring Triad.
Do you know what I actually heard? Do you know what prediction I actually heard with the Warring Triad? Is that they would save the Warring Triad until they did Kefka Ultimate.
Oh, Kefka Ultimate, that would be cool.
Because
What I think is, because the problem is why we didn't got a third Ultimate in Shadowbringers is because they said they just didn't have enough time. This time, they have enough time, depends on how they value their time. That means we could eventually have 3 Ultimates, because, well, they said how they design Ultimate, it's one person, and they have 3 persons who design those Ultimates. So each time one of those persons is designing Ultimate, that's why Yukop and Uvu was so freaking different to each other. And pretty much what I think, the first Ultimate will be Alexander, the second Ultimate will be Sordon, and the third Ultimate will be Warring Trials.
Yeah, I definitely don't think
all the 12
Nidhogg
knights.
will ever get an Ultimate, mainly because Ultimates are marathon fights. That's like their most defining feature, and the thing that's the most sets them apart from other content, besides their excruciating difficulty, is their marathon fights, and they're also puzzles. For example, the guys who first figured out how to awaken the primals in Uwu must have been completely insane, or just trying for hours, days. And I don't think
probably a mistake.
Yeah,
like, honestly, like what happened?
I don't think Nidhogg would just give them enough material to work with for an Ultimate. But
what also could be is that they put Sordon and Nidhogg in one fight because they're related to each other.
They very could do that. They could have, like, the first phase could be Nidhogg, and then the second phase is, like, Thornton coming in, killing Nidhogg to take his eye, and then you have, like, a short phase against Thornton, then you have a phase against the Knights of the Round, and then you fight against Thornton himself.
Yeah, and what a friend of mine actually predicted is that Sordon is going to eat or somehow absorb the power of the eye, and in the end we're gonna get this sort of freaking new enemy that is like a mixture like of a very freaking dope Sordon. Cause they did it with Uvu pretty much. It was like, okay, yeah, they did it in the story, but they went way farther beyond with it in Uvu.
Yeah. Also, like, the Ultimates are not beholden to what actually happened. Like, I think the trial description for Uwu basically flat out says that you're pretty sure the Wandering Minstrel stopped listening to you.
Yeah.
No, I don't think we're going to get a third ultimate, mainly because the dev team said they wouldn't make a third ultimate, because the raiding community in general said they didn't want a third ultimate, because 2 ultimates was hard enough.
But I also think one of the reasons we didn't get a third ultimate was because of Eureka.
Oh
Yeah.
no,
all
that
the,
is confirmed.
the delays in
That's
there.
pretty much. I think that was pretty much outright confirmed because
Yeah.
in essentially I don't think they even planned to make a second ultimate. Like Ukob was a passion project of 1 or 2 developers that they made on the side that they decided to put out there, and everyone loved it. Because if you actually think about it, ultimates do not work within the content structure of FF14. FF14 is an MMO that thrives on its accessibility to as many people as you want. There's something in this game for everyone, and anyone could work their way up to finishing an entire Savage tier if they wanted to, if they put in the effort. But ultimates...
And if they have a good team.
Yeah, and if they have a good team, obviously. But ultimates are specifically designed for the 1% of the 1%. This is content designed for, like, speed kill teams and world firsters and the kind of people that run minimum item level, no echo runs of old raid tiers.
And retards like me.
Yeah, so, like, if you like, it is pretty much flat out, they did confirm, Ultimate was not planned, and they kind of had to rush Uwu, because they're like, shit, they want another one. Soken, we need help! But and the reason why they didn't get a third one is because they basically said, okay, we can have either a third ultimate or we can have Baldisi and Arsenal. And seeing as we're already balls deep in Eureka, let's just do the Baldisi and Arsenal so we don't piss everyone off. But in Eid...
Oh yeah, that was a comparison I wanted to do earlier when you were talking, Megumi, about the 20 or so man raids for for the WoW. Like, imagine that level, like in the Baldessian Arsenal. We have 56 people in there. We have lag, we have server tick issues, and we have individual mechanics. One person can screw up the entire fight. And then it's not just reset and go back in. It takes 2.5 hours to just get there, and we need to schedule those times in advance. And then one person lags out with a meteor.
Also, the other difference is that aside for some side methods with very heavy stipulations, you can't get rezzed when you're in the BA. There's only 3 ways to res. One is the healer LB3, and a lot of fights you won't even build an LB3, especially if you have elemental gear. The other method is sacrifice, which kills the person that uses it. So it's a net like status quo. You don't actually gain anything. And then there's Spirit of the Remembered, which is a 70% chance to proc. There's no...
You mean 7?
That's just you. See, I find it funny that I'm called the most cursed man on the Discord when I'm always getting remembered procs. Like, I remember on one of the undersized meme runs that I did, we got absolutely shat on by Owain because we couldn't manage the hands in time because people didn't focus them down. I got 3 remembered procs on the trot, and the only reason why I didn't get any more than that is because I ran out of Spirit of the Remembreds.
And then you take it from my perspective. Every time I die on Osma, especially as a main caller, is nope. No
you
fucking
die and you
every time.
Good day, you lose.
You
It
lose.
is here, black and white. You lose. You get nothing. Good day, sir.
Alright, we reached well above the 2-hour mark at this point, so I think it's definitely time to wrap up and do some plugging and sign off for this time. So, Variel, do you want to start with your plugging?
Yes, I actually finally now have a Twitch channel to shill, unlike the last couple times that I did this. It's TripleCastSleep, separated by an underscore, and I'm actually currently streaming this podcast on my own channel as well. And that's it. I do live streams of Prey, and I do live streams of the BA whenever I tag along. You can check the meme runs in my VODs and get really, really confused because those runs are just so weird.
They are. And there's a lot of drunk people being somewhat loud.
I mean, to be fair, the last run we had was really damn good. Undersized party, shitload of newbies with no elemental gear, and we get to a 3% in rage on AV. I'm impressed that we even got to AV in the first place.
Yeah, so was I. Especially when the instance locked on us there too. Oh, please, game.
By the way, thank you for actually staying with us. I could hear it in your voice that you wanted to leave.
The thing was, something snapped in my jaw, and I got a super bad migraine, so I didn't even have my headphones off for most of it. Or on, rather. But yeah, I stick through it. Like, when I sign up for something, I'm fucking there to the end. You can ask my former static about that.
I believe Clay also has a channel to plug.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Clay.
So I'm also streaming on Twitch under the channel name Clayloid. It's the Lloyd is pretty much like Vocaloid without Voca, but because I can't sing, so I'm not vocal. So Clayloid, and yeah, pretty much I stream endgame content on there, like UCOP and Ultimates in general, especially in Shadowbringers. I want to expand way more on YouTube as well with guides of tank classes, because I'm a tank main and I really love tanking, and tanking is great in this game, and I'm happy about the changes that they do to tank.
Stance dancing is dead. Paladin is viable as main tank and Savage again. Everyone is pleased.
No, please, no. Like, still, Warrior will be still the best main tank, because he purely just generates the most aggro, so
Except
and he has free cooldowns.
Everyone from the media tour has said that thanks to the stance changes, aggro is an absolute non-issue for any tank with a brain. So, and not only that, Paladin's mitigation is better than Warriors, especially now that Sheltron isn't consumed and just lasts the whole 10 seconds.
It's actually not better. It's like, yes, Sheltron is very nice, and Sentinel, the change is also amazing, but Warrior, you need to pretty much see, Paladin got Sheltron, that is a block. It depends on, we probably get, I'm pretty sure they're gonna fucking nerf it. So, let's say around 30% damage reduction per block on 6 seconds. Warrior is getting a skill. They're gonna rework War Intuition. It's becoming a 25-second cooldown on 20 seconds. And they have so many tools, especially tank busters. They got. I actually wanted to address it when you said the cheesing stuff. They removed cheesing. They gave us tanks in general, on the tank side, they gave us more cheese. Just look at Warrior and read the home game changes and see, home game can be used without restrictions? But it's still 180 seconds? Yeah, you don't need a target anymore to home game. You can just press home game.
That's not broken at all.
That is broken. And Yoshi is saying stuff like, we don't want to make Super Bowl Light so great because like, look at Hello Ground. Hello Ground is OP. And then they change home game to that. Like, what the fuck? Well, Hallowed Ground, 10 seconds, no damage on 7-minute cooldown. It sounds good for those 10 seconds. After that, it's bullshit. Home Gang. It's 3 minutes, you have 6 seconds, 6 seconds, and you drop to 1 HP, and you don't have any restrictions anymore. So you can pop this shit every 3 minutes, and don't freaking care about this tank buster or like this mechanic. It's so freaking stupid what they did to home game.
I personally think that in Shadowbringers, Paladin and Warrior are going to be the air quote main tanks, and Dark Knight and Gunbreaker are going to be the air quote off tanks. To be honest, that's not really a true distinction anyway, because almost every single fight in this game has a tank swap of some degree. It's very rare to have a fight with a true main tank off tank. Like as far as I know, there's let me see. In Alphascape, the only one that requires a true main tank is O11S. There is a tank swap, but it's a double tank swap, so you just immediately swap back to being main tank. O9S has a tank swap. O10S has, well, O10S is infamous for its tank swaps. I think 12S has a tank swap. Seiryu has tanks. Seiryu has tank swaps. Suzaku has tank swaps. Byakko has tank swap. Every fight in this game has a tank swap. So the distinction between main tank and off tank is more of an academic distinction than one that actually matters. But I, for one, am personally really glad that I can actually main tank as a paladin. Paladin is still going to be a good off tank. Intervention is still going to be there. Cover is still going to be there. To be honest, those are the only two things that you really need to use as an off-tank as Paladin.
Yeah.
Everything else you can
Well,
use
I
as a
still
main tank.
personally think that Paladin won't be main tank, because the thing is, in Stormblood, the indication why Warrior is a main tank is because he just generates the most aggro. So
Doesn't matter anymore.
it will just go on to Shadowbringers. The tank that deals the most damage will be main tank. Warrior will deal the most damage out of all by far, because Warrior is busted.
It's
and
actually not.
Probably
It's not.
after that, Dark Knight.
The
what?
But this is a good discussion, guys. But I think we should put a pin in it until the next episode
two more
for Shadowbringer
sentences.
predictions.
2 more sentences and then I'm done. The DPS estimates from people data mining the Mediator and the live data mining the Mediator and things came in, and also
no spoilers.
no,
Please.
and this it's just a continuing trend of Stormblood. Warrior's DPS is over the course of the entire fight really not that much higher than the other two tanks. In fact, for quite a while in Stormblood, Dark Knight actually had slightly higher DPS than Warrior. The only reason why people think Warrior's DPS is so high is because they have a full-on burst window, as opposed to just having a rolling rotation like Paladin and Dark Knight. Warrior's DPS really isn't that high. Meanwhile, Gunbreaker's DPS got shafted.
John, don't look at those yet. The problem with those, it's not the
There'll be
potencies
adjustments.
itself are not solid, so
There'll
you
be
can't look at those.
adjustments. But I seriously doubt they're going to boost Warrior's damage that much, because again,
They won't.
for most of Stormblood, Warrior's damage was on par with Dark Knight, not that much higher than Paladin. The only reason why Paladin tends to pass lower is because Paladin actually loses DPS by being the off tank, because it becomes significant.
Shield swipes, bro.
Shield swipes actually account for a decent amount of DPS, which is another reason why I think that Paladins are going to want to be main tanks in
We don't have shield swap anymore.
Do we not? Does that mean
No, shield swap is gone. Yeah.
Yay.
That's why. The thing is, like, pretty much Warrior will be dealing the most damage. It's not by far, but in terms of tanks, currently there's a 100 damage difference between each tank. There's Warrior 6.3k, Dark Knight 6.2k, Paladin 6.1k. This will pretty much go on to Shadowbringers, with Warrior still being the most damage dealing tank. But because he generates the most aggro in the opener, because he has that big burst.
The other thing is that again, the generating a large amount of aggro in the opener is a complete moot point now, because of the fact that we can now just stay in tank stance constantly, because there's no longer a penalty to it. I mean, pull in tank stance as a paladin, you'll be able to pull. The reason why you don't do that is because pulling in tank stance fucks your DPS. Long story short, if you have to switch tank stance as a paladin at the moment, it throws your Requiescat and Fight or Flight windows out of alignment, not only with each other, but also with the rest of the raid. And that is the main reason why Paladin is off tank normally, is because swapping stances absolutely, completely and utterly screws their DPS. Also, one thing that we actually missed when we were discussing the live letter, the requirements to be a mentor are actually mildly difficult now.
Good. That makes it a lot less shit people become mentors just for the crowd.
What you now need to do is you need to have completed 1,000 instances and get 300 commendations, which are still the same. Yeah, Paladin has shield. They should be main tank. Go away. But also they've made it so that you need to have a tank, a healer, and a DPS. It doesn't matter which DPS. At 80 and have completed their role quest. So, bugger me, if I want to keep this crown, I'm actually going to have to level Astra for once. Quite. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's actually another thing. Paladin can provide the vast majority of their utility while main tanking with no real loss to them. Because OGCD weaving is not that much of an issue for Paladin, so using things like Divine Veil, main tanking.
Still, the cover, you lose the cover if you're not out-tanking, and the cover is like, it's
That's
so
true.
freaking
Cover,
cheesy.
I'm not saying that Paladin is going to be the mandatory main tank. I'm just saying that Paladin can actually main tank now.
Yeah, definitely. Like, everyone can actually main tank, but it will still be determined on, because how it works, we still have Shirk, they changed Provoke that it generates Amity, is how it works is both tank will start an aggro stance, and the one
using intervention.
both tanks start an aggro stance, and the one that just does more damage obviously has more aggro. And
actually, that's a good point. That's a good point, actually. Do you, because this is a question that I want to ask myself, how much is intervention actually used at higher levels? Because I've never seen a Paladin use it in my runs. Because if you're taking the tank buster, you use cover. If they're taking the tank buster, you can't use intervention as anything more than the base 10%. It's not 50%. It caps out at 40, and you need to use Sheltron and Sentinel and Rampart for the full benefit, which means that there's a good chance that if you're in a fight which has regular tank busters and require regular swapping, for example, O10S. If you use Sentinel and Rampart on your intervention, you won't have them up for when you eat a tank buster.
I think at higher level, intervention is used a little fuck ton, but it comes down to the situation at hand and if you actually have those buffs up. But if you're an off tank, you should have those buffs up, correct?
It depends on, do you need it? If like, for example, on Savages, how I do it is, there's an AoE. I'm gonna use Sheltron because I just want this 100% shield swipe. But when I see, I'm gonna cap anyways, I have a free bar, and there's a tank buster. Yes, I'm just gonna intervention it because it's free. But I'm not, depends on how the pacing is of the fight. Either I'm gonna use a Rampart with it or not. It just depends on how the pacing is of the fight and how the in general rotation is. For example, when I need to, when I know my warrior is using Vengeance there, and I can swarm in Rampart intervention, and the next tank burster that's coming in 30 seconds, I can cover Sentinel.
Yeah.
And that's also a lot of mitigation.
Yeah, one of our tanks in our static is going to be a Paladin next expansion. We're going from Dark Knight and Warrior to Paladin and Warrior, so that's actually something I need to know. As static leader, I make it my business to know the class of everyone in my group, even if I'm a black mage and have to provide 0 utility. I at least need to know what I have to yell at them for.
Well, in Shadowbringers, it will be different because you don't have shield swipe anymore, so you want to have more. There you pretty much want to see, can I cover cheese it? Or do I just have to throw an intervention? Cover cheese you always want to do if your main tank or your tank partner has no cooldowns anymore. Then you cover cheese. If your tank partner has cooldowns, then you support him with intervention.
Because the other thing is that I'm not sure how important this is going to be, but now that Sheltron just lasts for 10 seconds, if you're getting
6.
Is the duration getting nerfed then?
Yeah, it's 6 seconds.
Because hang on, bring out my Paladin.
Yeah, currently the duration of Sheltron is 10 seconds. Rip.
15.
Sorry?
Currently it's 15, but
I'm
yeah,
looking at the tooltip right now.
Wait, is it 10?
It's 10 seconds.
I'm pretty sure it's 10 too, yeah.
I thought it was 15.
An
Oh god, well.
intervention is 6 seconds. But now that it's 10 seconds, it's going to restore a lot of MP, which means that you're going to be able to use a lot more of your spells. Don't know if that's going to matter too much in Savage. Definitely going to be handy in dungeons. Yeah, when you block a hit with Sheltron, it restores a small amount of MP. Well, small amounts. It restores like half the MP that Riot Blade restores.
So again, I think this is a good discussion, but we're 2.5 hours into a 2-hour podcast, and this is more of a Shadowbringer predictions, guys. So let's wrap it up, and let's...
Eden is going to be better than Stormblood. Enough said.
I mean, you can't go anywhere but up from Stormblood. But again, that's next week's episode with Stormblood wrap up and Shadowbringer predictions.
Okay, Stormblood isn't bad.
It can get worse.
Stormblood isn't bad. It's just worse than Heavensward. I think that's the issue.
Yeah.
It's like it's
Stormblood is
like a solid
worse than 1.
It's like a solid 7.7 out of 10 expansion, but it just feels a lot worse than that because we're coming down from Heavensward.
Again, I'll give it a 4, but that's next week's episode. So let's wrap this up, guys, because I need to go to the bathroom.
So do I.
I'm sorry.
No worries, no
I
worries.
need to
So
crawl back
I'm gonna
into
make
bed.
some quick plugging too, because I haven't done that yet. So I'm Angel Lux. You can find me on YouTube and Twitch under Angel Lux, also on Patreon, and I host a lot of Discord stuff. Citadel of Light is a Final Fantasy XIV gaming community and a content creator platform going forward. And I also host a raiding Discord for people that want to get into raiding. And also, there's gonna be another Discord, well, it's already up, for prog rating. If you want to get into that, you can find all those links in the description below. I saw along with Variel's and Mr. Clay Megumi's links too.
If you have literally any interest in anything remotely to do with FF14, Angel's running a Discord for it. He's running like 7 Discords at the moment. He accounts for over a quarter
Really?
of my Discords.
I have 6 Discords in my so-called Lux network right now, yes.
Let me
Damn
see.
it.
Well, technically there's the one that you temporarily made for you and Kappa, but there's the Citadel.
Yeah, but that's just today's wedding Discord.
Citadel
Like,
of Light,
that's
Sanctuary, this podcast, Raiders of Light, the other
Fight Club. And also my FC Discord, but that's
so 1,
like only 3 of them are really open for the public,
2,
and that's Citadel of
3,
Light, the
4,
gaming
5.
community, the Fight Club, and the Raiders of Light. But that's the thing too. People complain, oh, there's too much on this Discord, and the next line of people complain, there's too many Discords. Like, you can't please everyone.
The issue is not the
Like, either I make a Discord, either I make it so you have to scroll through one Discord for 5 minutes to find things, or I categorize it up. But then people complain they have too many servers. How the fuck am I supposed to please everyone? Hello?
the issue is not the amount on your Discord, it's the way it's organized.
That might, maybe
I've been
actually.
saying this for
But
months.
we're talking about making some... Discord was talking about making some form of new structure so it will be easier to have, like... I don't know. Something's gonna happen there on Discord, I heard.
We're done here. I've dragged this on for an extra 20 minutes longer than intended, so I'm going to be the one to call it here. Good night, everyone.
Right. So, Variel Ambergold there signing off. I'm Angel Lux. Have a good one. And Clay?
You're welcome.
Nothing? There. Thank you very much for showing up, my dude. I hope to see you again on the podcast some other time.
Yeah, it was good to have some
sure.
input
For everyone
from
that-
someone that's rated in other MMOs too.
Exactly. And for everyone watching on Twitch that stuck around to the live thing, thank you very much. And for everyone else, you'll get the podcast soon. We'll just have to edit it and upload it everywhere. So stay tuned for that.
Okay. There's a YouTube channel with all this stuff on, and the audio quality there is supposedly better as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna see what I can audio man's out of this. It's probably gonna be pretty good. But yeah, for ExCog Radio, episode number 4. Thanks for tuning in. Stick around and have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.